On the third morning, feeling safer after reaching Minnesota, the pain now a dull throb, he sat nursing a Coke in a diner off I-94, the Hungry Haven, a cozy place decorated in beauty board, with citrus remnants cooked onto the silverware. In the smoking section, a lone waitress sat facing away from the counter, her body slack as any customer's. An urgent story resounded on the TV behind her. Some rock star in Seattle had shot himself dead. She stared at the highway as if it were God. It took Eddie a while to get her attention, but once he did, she snapped to and hopped over, spine straight, pen behind her ear. "Do you mind, miss? Can't light it myself," he said, his request muffled by the cigarette he'd wrangled from its box and picked up with his mouth. He grinned and raised his elbows, meeting the woman's eyes with his own. "Oh, of course, right," she said, her wide eyes failing to mask her surprise. She struck a match and he inhaled the fire through the cigarette. "Gonna be a nice day," she announced, like something profound. "Let me know if you need anything else." Her name tag said Sandy, pinned onto a dingy pink dress with a gray apron wrapped around it. Under her nasal tone, something cared so strongly that Eddie moved sideways down the bench a little, crab-like, to avoid the power of her interest, fearing that she might get to know him against his will. Sandy turned away. "Actually, I'm looking for work," Eddie blurted out to her back. He wasn't looking yet, really, but suddenly he needed her kindness, superficial or not, craved it beyond his ability to stay distant. "Near here," he went on. He didn't think Bethella would let him sponge for long, if at all. She might not even care that he'd lost his hands. She'd probably blame his mother. Sandy turned and the glow left her face. She said. "What kind?" "Of work can I do? You'd be surprised. Fixing stuff, computers. I also do carpentry, wiring, odd jobs." Doubt spread across her face, and Eddie thought he could almost read her mind. Now how can this boy do that in his condition? He sat up. "I can do just about anything I set my mind to," he said, pouring brightness over her hesitation. "God makes 3 requests of his children. Do the best you can, where you at, with what you got now." "That's beautiful," Sandy said. "I bet your mama told you that." Eddie smiled because he knew his mother would never have said such a thing. He'd picked up the saying from Mrs. Vernon, but then it occurred to him that Sandy would think the smile meant, "Yes, Mama sure did." Confirming that her fantasy of his life was the truth would make her more likely to help. After a brief chat, he told her his full name and she wrote it down on a wet napkin. He figured he'd never hear from her again. It took Eddie a day and a half to find Bethella. He asked one of the few black pedestrians where he could find a beauty shop, adding that he meant to find his aunt. The pedestrian asked his aunt's name, which she didn't recognize, and then recommended he try Marquita's Beauty Palace on St. Germain. To get there, Eddie had to drive across the Mississippi River. He read the sign aloud as he crossed. It astounded him to think that this was the same river as the one near his hometown, Ovis, Louisiana, and that it flowed as far as he had just driven. Seeing the same river here helped him adjust. The great river wasn't wide or grand in Minnesota, but it didn't fill him with the same panic as it had back home. It had less to do with death. The past didn't slither through this shallower water. He didn't imagine any drowned ghosts staring up from the riverbed or bobbing out of culverts, their googly eyes asking, "Why?" St. Cloud pacified him. Its evenly spaced suburban homes reminded him of a balsa wood city he'd seen in a children's book. Even its housing complexes sat comfortably beyond tall, healthy trees and sprawling plots of grass, and though 100 Dayglow toys might lie upturned on one driveway, the next several lots would have neatly arranged yards, already flashing a few green shoots, while here and there a crocus forecast a pleasant spring. It felt more like home than Ovis, a place he hadn't seen in almost a decade. Eddie circled the area for nearly half an hour without getting out of the car, suddenly embarrassed not to have hands after what he took to be Sandy's condescension. But eventually, thinking of how his mother needed him back in Louisiana, he parked at a beauty shop and nudged the door open with his shoulder, holding his arms behind his back with calculated ease. The women at Marquita's did not know Bethella, but they did know a different beauty shop, the Clip Joint, on the west side.